Landscaping here for irrigation training at the TCC College. The start of our water source comes from a ball valve connected right here. This is to the domestic of the building, and then it penetrates outside the building to what we call a double check and a gate valve. From your location inside the building, it penetrates down to the ground, comes out. We also now have installed an isolation valve here to just kind of shut the water down between the building and our irrigation system. Next to that's what they call a double check valve. It's a backflow preventer. The idea of this backflow preventer is that it eliminates cross-contamination from contaminated soils getting back into domestic water. Winterization on this, we recommend every year. When you winterize your system, close both valves, open up the petcocks, which are the little nuts on top, and it'll drain the water completely out of the double check itself. And then we recommend you put insulation around it as well as an extra precaution. After you leave the double check, this is what's known as a quick coupler valve. They're actually a garden hose connection is what they are. This is typically where you winterize your system from. You have to get a compressor, connect to this with a hose fitting, and then you put air to the system. When you put air to the system, we recommend no more than 30 psi, and you make sure that any given time there's a control valve that is open. If you do not do that, you will pressurize your irrigation system so fast that you could potentially blow things out of the ground. Again, make sure something's open. This here is just an added feature. This right down here is what they call a Champion manual 3/4 inch drain valve. That's merely just to drain your system, but with elevation changes on most sites, you can open this. It's only going to drain what it can from here. If there's grounds that are higher and lower on the backside, it will not pick up that water. We recommend the air blowing system. That gets damn near everything out of there. So this is what's known as your point of connection. Once you leave your point of connection, you end up going to what they call irrigation control valves. And they're throughout the site. We'll hand off a set of as-builts before I leave that will show you locations. Valves look like. The control valve, what it'll do is it'll operate the watering to the landscape, so it actually will turn on your irrigation heads, both manually and electronically. You want to do it manually, there's a knob right here. It says on and off. Spin it the direction you want it to go until you hear water flowing. Once the water starts flowing, stop. And again, when you're done, you can turn it to the off, and it takes a few seconds for the water to stop running. You'll hear it, it'll stop, shut, done deal. Again, I think there's 8 or 9 valves on this job site. Again, we'll hand off a set of as-built plans today that will show the actual locations of them. I do know that this was going to be all for us. It goes down and just stubs out to our double check. So this is just an isolation valve. You can turn it off here, as well as we put a gate valve inside our area as well. So this didn't make sense with 10 feet, 2 gate valves, but you can isolate ourselves here and still unpack the building. So that's all that is. So this is the true point of connection for our irrigation system. As I said, inside you have a ball valve, comes out to here. We then put a gate valve in here. to isolate our stuff as well. Probably familiar with the double check valve. Prevents cross contamination, so that we don't get any fertilizer or anything else to come back and mess with drinking water. Beyond that, it's a quick coupler valve. Gives you water as long as your irrigation system's charged. Wintertime, when it's winterized, you'll get no water from there. The next box is just an automatic drain valve. It's a 3/4 inch champion. You can utilize that to drain your irrigation, but the odds of pulling water from clear to the other side to here is slim to none. We recommend that you do your pressure shutdowns, and you guys are familiar with probably that here. Hook up compressor to it. We don't recommend more than 30 psi. Make sure that something is open at all times while you're pressurizing through there. We recommend that you turn on the controller, activate zone 1, get your air going, watch zone 1 go, heads pop up, water, 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 then pretty soon it's air. Advance to 2, 3, 4, 5, your last zone, leave open until you come over here and disconnect this, because this thing will pressurize extremely fast, and you'll end up with damaged valves, potentially blowing them out of the ground, maybe even an underground fitting that might blow apart, and you'll never know it until you turn it on the next year.
How about just turning it off, opening up Petcock?
Well, that'll protect your double check. It still leaves your heads exposed to freezing. I mean, we typically get a 2 to 4 inch freeze here. So if there's still water in those heads, you potentially could crack them. The pipes, I'm not too overly worried about. Everything is 12, 18 inches deep. Doesn't ever freeze here that much. But, you know, I, at home personally, just shut it off and leave it, because I can fix it if I need to. But recommend if you do that, once you close this thing down, do open up your petcock so you at least protect this component. And then we recommend you put insulation around each one of these, as well as your control valves. That little cost of some insulation save you a whole lot of time in the future if you're having to dig up, repair something. And the system will last forever if it's maintained correctly. I mean, you're going to get your standard repair. Somebody drove overhead, cracked, kicked a nozzle, something like that. It's pretty standard. But if you take care of them right, they'll last forever. Like I said, though this was kind of in thought a temporary system, it's installed as a permanent system. So, but that's what we call our point of connection area. Throughout the site, which we'll hand a set of drawings off when we're done. Got our irrigation control valves. It's all a Rainbird product. This is a Rainbird PEB valve, and you can manually turn these on, or they will also fire from the controller. There's a solenoid down there, which is the electrical component. It says on and off on it. Spin it to the on until you hear water. Once you hear water, be very careful at that point. You can probably go a little bit more. Water will start flowing through the valve. You'll see the heads pop up. At that point, stop. If you continue to spin that, it will pop out. You will lose the little plunger that's in there and the O-ring, and then you're gonna have to run all the way back to the double check and shut it off, and then you're potentially trying to find that little unit. So, again, should you hear the water, just stop at that point. When you're done, you can close it. It'll take a few seconds. They close via pressure. So once it starts to slow down a little bit, it'll finally go ahead and just seat itself. If for some reason it doesn't shut down, chances are there's some debris in the valve. 5 or 6 nuts on the top, take it apart, pull the bonnet off. Any rock or debris might be in there. If you don't see anything, it's a two-man process. Have somebody turn on your water gently, and stuff will flush through there. But it's not uncommon to see that. If that doesn't fix your problem, then the bonnet itself may be bad. And in time, they do go bad. Kind of rare, but they just happen. So, you know, that's the next thing you can check. So, pretty simple system to run. All of our heads are MP rotators. They're on a Rainbird product. MP rotators are a new nozzle. You may be familiar with them. They're a low volume water gallonage usage. They're more of a stream. Then they just feather out. Just kind of keep feathering out. A little different than your standard spray nozzles. Your spray nozzles put out more gallons per minute, than these would, so we typically run these a little bit longer. Once you turn around on one of these and look at it, and you've seen the spray heads in action, a 15 half will pound a lot of water in 1 minute. This one here, if you look at it, in 1 minute doesn't give you near enough water, so you almost want to double the amount of time you're running these. And of course, sun, shade, it all varies in the time we program the clock, which we'll go over the clock next. But this is the style of heads we used. So there are some larger nozzles over on the other side. They're coming at 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000. 1,000, 13 to 15 foot. 2,000, 17 to 22 foot. 3,000, 22 to 25 foot.
And that's on this.
Well, depends on the color. I think your blues are 3,000, your reds are 1,000, and the grays are 2,000. And it just depends on how far we're trying to spread the head. So
And those are all back in here, or are they all through everything?
throughout the whole site.
Okay.
So you'll see different types of nozzles.
Are there any combination turf and bed zones?
No, we
Good.
keep our turf and beds separate due to participation rates.
Thank you.
So as you know, as you're asking the question, it takes a little bit more water on your lawns than it will on your beds. Again, we'll program it to what we feel it is, but as of today, it will be yours. And we'll program it. I'll tell you what I have it at. You can make a decision at that point saying we don't want to water that much. Right now I'm doing 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
8
And then-
minutes a zone.
Probably less than that. So
Looks like it's. Of course, it's been raining, but looks moist.
yeah. This I think is just a low spot. That's why it looks wet. So might be something kind of watch. Might have to supplement some type of drainage in there, but we don't put in drainage. But this is your point of connection. So we'll go back and look at the box. Any questions on this so far? You could buy 2 more modules and eliminate that controller and have another controller. And then you only deal with one controller. As it is now, this is your building. I'm assuming this does just your field.
That's correct.
But again, that's a fairly new controller. A little bit of work and conduit up into here. These modules are about $35 a whack. You can have everything running from one clock and then have another controller somewhere else. So, but it's there for you. Again, we ran some spare wires out there. Like you got 2 red and a yellow that run throughout your irrigation system. So, anytime you do add a module on these controllers, you do have to shut it off, plug in the module, turn your controller back on so it'll read it, as well as identify it in here. So these are a little bit more fancier than they used to be. So any experience whatsoever with controllers?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we all do.
Is this similar to anything you have out here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So auto, pretty much self-explanatory. It's going to run auto. It's going to run exactly what we set it for. I'll go through what I have it set for again. If that's not something you're looking for right now, then we can modify it now, or we'll leave it and you can modify it later. You set your current date and time. If you get down here, you can see there's some plus, minus, back, next. What's dark is what you're going to be moving. So by the arrow going backwards, I'm moving it back. So it's real simple to go. Go to next. We're in June. Again, June's colored in black. Plus, minus, moves you back and forth. If you make a mistake, you can hit back. It'll take you back one. We are set right now on June 9th, 2017. So there's your current date. The time function, same thought process. What is dark, you are moving. What I see the most common mistake is make sure you're on AM, PM.
Mm-hmm.
These do have a battery backup. If it loses power, it will not run your irrigation system, but it will at least save what you have programmed. It may screw with your time. You may come over here and it might be flashing. Again, make sure you're looking at the AM PM, because that's the most common thing I see when I come out and look at controllers, that somebody's got that backwards. Again, you hit next. We'll go to the the minutes. There's your AM we were just
AM.
talking about. Start times. These here have A, B, C, and D. Each one of those programs will allow you 8 start times. So in a sense, you can start this controller 32 different times. For something this simplistic, not needed. I think we have everything set on program A, 1 start time.
8 minutes.
Well, I'll go back through. I can't, my memory's good, but it's not that good. And we'll look at what I do have them set for. Again, what's dark is what you're moving. Okay? And it'll go by minutes. If you hit this real and hold it down, it will cycle through real fast. So right now I have it going off at 3:30 in the morning. And there's only 1 start time. So I hit that and it came over. I hit the plus and it came to this one here. Backwards. 2 is off, 3 is off, 4, 5, so forth. And we know we're on program A because that's where it's sitting. To advance to the different program, just move this toggle right over. But as I said, right now we are running only on program A. Now you cannot. Oh, it's got start time there. We'll zero that out. So there's nothing on C.
I think C and D are good.
And D are good. Okay. So we're down to just program A with 1 start time.
And then the Monday allow prevent, is that it?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So right now we have on program A, we're prevented on Monday.
That's good.
Tuesday, we're watering. Wednesday, we're watering. Thursday, we're watering. Friday, watering. Prevent on Saturday and Sunday. That's way different than what I just programmed here a few days ago. So that makes me a little nervous. One reason why I don't recommend putting these outside, everybody's an irrigation tech. What do you guys want it to water?
It's perfect because we're here on Monday mornings.
Okay, so do you
So
want to water
Monday-
5 days a week or 3 days a week?
I would say let's continue with 5 to establish the plants during the summertime here.
Okay, so we're gonna go Monday off. You're watering Tuesday, watering Wednesday, watering Thursday, watering Friday, Saturday no water, Sunday no water. So you got 3 days not watering. You got 4 days on, 4 days off.
With maybe we'll put Sunday on
Okay.
because next week is irrigation on or graduation on Saturday.
Okay.
So I don't think we want it on Saturday.
Everything that we water, it should be done. If we're watering at 3:30 in the morning, it'll cycle through. We'll know when we see durations, and we can adjust that start time to 1 o'clock in the morning to assure that when AM daylight hits, you're done watering. We recommend obviously watering as much as you can at night, evaporation reasons, red thread reasons, you know, to try to keep
Right.
it all at night. So, and people walking by. So our run times. Right now, it's station 1 is going for 8 minutes. Station 2 is 8 minutes. Station 3 is 8 minutes. 4 is 8 minutes. 5 has nothing. And that might have been why there was a runtime on program B.
Okay.
So 5, since somebody likes 8 minutes, we're going to just go ahead and put it to 8 minutes.
And I'll monitor this with the second program being
Yep.
off.
Good. And we'll go to station 6. It's already at 8 minutes. 7 has no time. Again, that must have been on program B. Eight. So we got 12 zones on here. So 8 again, we'll go ahead and put 8 minutes on it. 9 already has 8. 10 has 8. 11 has 8. 12. We'll take the 8. $13 should be 0. Now this is a test program. This will have multiple things. You can actually test your irrigation itself, and this is good for when you do your startups. You can set up for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, however long you want to walk, and activate your whole entire irrigation system to cycle through. This also has what they call a wiring test, that you can hit that, and from here it'll cycle through all of your valves and make sure that you have no grounding problems or hot problems, anything in the ground. It says it's going to trigger. It'll tell you what valve it is. If you have a bad solenoid, this will tell you that there's a problem with that valve.
Okay.
Weather sensor status, it'll tell you whether it's activated or not activated. I do not believe there is one on this
It's
system.
like it says bypassed.
Yeah. So there isn't one here. And then you have a master valve.
Mm-hmm.
Now there is not a master valve on this system, so there again you have that luxury to put one in, and then you have to activate your master valve in here to make it
Right.
work. Season adjust. This is actually a really nice feature to have on a controller because you can set your programming up for the hottest time of the year, and instead of coming through here and reprogramming every zone, you can actually adjust this by percentage. And then if you set it for 50%, it'll water 50% of what you have it programmed. In the same theory, it could go upward. If you got it at 100%, you want more water, you can take it upwards to 200%. So you can double your watering by just changing that feature.
Or you can just change your program.
Yes, either way. That's just for the guy that wants to come in here and do it fast.
Mm-hmm.
Delay watering. There's certain calendar days that you can actually, that's mainly what this feature is for. There's a rain delay. There's a calendar day off. The calendar day off is if every year you have a specific day that you do not want this controller to work or run, you can actually program that day in here. And whether you have it set on a Tuesday to come on and that date falls on a Tuesday, it will not run. So, as we do at night anyway, I mean, that's features based. If you have a field day and you're running your fields during the day and you want to make sure that somebody's not getting wet, you can actually put that specific date in here. And unless you change it, that date every time will not run. Like I said, this thing does, we're getting kind of more into the advanced features.
Right, yeah, a lot of the stuff we're not going to be messing with.
You're more than welcome to if you want to. This is actually kind of a really expensive upgraded controller for what we're doing here on the site. But the beauty of it is you have the luxury to do a whole lot of things with it. There's your master valve settings. You can actually turn this on to where you can actually tell your master valve to activate and not your control valves. So if you had a controller or a main line that had just quick couplers on it, that you always wanted it to be activated between 2 and 4 so you could have hose connections, you could tell this controller to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The special features, you got, of course, language. This doesn't have a flow program on it. If there's a flow sensor hooked up, you could actually see the flow that this controller was getting. Irrigation, my bad. This is your modules. You can then go ahead and put those in, and this is where you would activate the other ones if you wanted to put them in here. This is the oh, I skipped one. That was module programming. Again, you could program just one separate module. So they have 4 different units in there. You can actually tell this one here I want this one to do this one here I want to do that, and it'll override what you've programmed here
Okay.
as far as start time and stuff go. Module status, it'll tell you if you've got one good or one bad in here. So, and that'll typically also trigger by a red light in here, as well as right there. It'll tell you there's an alarm right there. So if you see that, that kind of tells you there's something going on. IQ, you can actually hook this up to a weather station. There's a cartridge you can pick up. They're about $500–600. You can actually plug it into here, and you can tell this controller what kind of soils you have, what type of plant material you have, whether it's lawn, what kind of watering you want it to do, and then there's a phone number that you can connect to, and it'll read a weather station.
It
And
was like a Maxicom thing, or
it's kind of similar to that, but Maxi's a whole different system. This here will just read 2 weather stations. One's in Lacey, and one's in Everett. And then you can set this up based on that to water, and tell it that you want this irrigation system to give you 1 inch or 1/2 inch of water a week, whatever you may think it may need. And if that weather station picks up a certain amount of water or moisture, it sends something back to this controller and will water only what's required to water that.
but they're going on data from Lacey and Everett.
Yes,
Okay.
that's the downside to it. They have more advanced technology, but just a run-of-the-mill, and this controller won't do a lot of that. But again, it's a good feature to have. But you're right, you're getting data from 50 miles away, and it could be pouring down there and nothing here.
I think Everett's the more problematic one.
This here,
Put a rain sensor in on this?
did we know?
No, could you?
It could be. There's a wireless they do make for this,
Okay.
so there's no wiring involved, and get it up out of the reach of children so that nobody's messing with it. But you can get a wireless Rainbird sensor that will work with it. You do have a component that will wire to here, and it has a little tiny antenna on it, and then you got to just get that thing somewhere close by where it will actually receive moisture as your landscape would. This is just to clear your program. You can either clear an individual program, or you can go ahead and clear all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is for manual watering. You can start a specific station. You can start a specific program, being A, B, C, or D.
Well, that's how we usually start out the season, is manually go through every zone.
Right. And then you got to test all stations again. So you can do a 2-minute test, 3-minute test. And we're back to off.
Do you have a zone chart?
My as-builts that I will give you guys will.
Okay.
So right now we're running at 3:30, 8 minutes a zone, 12 zones. You're done watering by 5 in the morning.